Okay, we are now recording. I'm going to stream us now so that we can, all right, we should be going live now on our Facebook. It takes a minute for the stream to go, but we can start letting people in now. Okay. And our live stream is up, so we're good.
Hi, everyone. Welcome. Good afternoon, everybody. Still see a lot more people joining us, so we will give a couple of moments for people to be able to enter the Zoom here. Thank you all for joining us. Oh, there we go. All right. Right. Senator Irwin, I'm going to give you the ability to unmute yourself. You don't have to unmute yourself right now, but I want to let you know. Do that with all of our panelists as they are able to join us here. All right, well, good afternoon, everyone. As we get started here, wanted to start by introducing myself. My name is Katie Wendell. I'm the Senior Manager of Advocacy at the Area Agency on Aging 1B. We're excited that you're able to join us today for our first ever virtual legislator town hall discussion. Normally, we would bring a bunch of you up to Lansing to meet with all of the legislators serving our region for Older Michiganians Day on the Capitol lawn, share lunch together. Of course, the social distancing, we weren't able to do that this year. So we put together this event in hopes of facilitating some conversation between committed advocates in Region 1B and legislators that are focused on senior issues. So we're excited to bring a panel of 4 legislators that serve in key roles influencing legislation that impacts seniors, and hoping for a good discussion today. We do have everyone muted just to limit background noise and to make sure the event can run smoothly, but we want your input and your questions for our panel discussion that'll be occurring a little bit later in our program. So you can enter your questions in the chat. We will be trying to focus our conversation in on the 5 elements of the Older Michiganians Day platform that we'll go over in a few moments. Focus our conversation in on the Kathleen, there we go. I muted Kathleen, and that's kind of how we'll start managing things here today. So I wanted to start us off with an introduction from the Area Agency on Aging 1B President and CEO Michael Carson.
Good afternoon and welcome. As Katie said, we're excited and proud to have our first virtual town hall. I think it really shows the flexibility that everyone in the state has had working around COVID and the limitations that we're dealing with. I was excited to see that we're moving forward tomorrow starting at 9 o'clock and looking forward to taking my mask off inside of the gym. So it should be a good day for all tomorrow. I just wanted to say really to everyone on the call that the Area Agency on Aging 1B, as well as all the different service organizations throughout the state, have worked really, really hard this year to make sure that we have met the needs of our elderly population and our adults with disability. We have been a great resource throughout our 6 counties. and working collaboratively, like I mentioned, with other organizations, making sure that we have given out boxes of food, supplies that are needed, a great resource currently of where to get the vaccine. And the good part is that our staff at 1B have really moved in the right direction. And as I mentioned on a call yesterday, in 2 weeks, we were able to be totally remote. Our programs have flourished this year, helping people, and we're excited and proud of the work that we're doing. Our work with COVID, as I mentioned, has really taken up the majority of our time this year. While we support our current role and our current mission, we've also taken on the added responsibility of working within the boundaries of COVID and making sure that social isolation is being addressed, food, making sure that our seniors have food, and those that were isolated at home had food. And we did it in a lot of different ways. The state of Michigan supplied boxes, and they worked with gleaners, and these food boxes had over 20 meals in them. We got them to people's homes. People picked them up at different locations and senior apartments. Everywhere that we could, we helped feed people and make sure that they had the food and the security needed during this time. We're also currently working with our 6 counties on vaccinating the homebound seniors. Each county is doing something a little different, and we're moving in that direction as well to make sure that we offer the money that we have for the program, the funds, the resources necessary to get the word out and to get into the homes and give the vaccinations to those seniors that want it. A slight interruption with the Johnson & Johnson vaccine, but we're back on track again, and we're excited to move forward. There are some seniors that are still a little nervous about letting people in their homes, and some that are nervous about the vaccine, but we're working very, very hard. And we're also working on developing flyers that are going out with our home delivered meals, our Meals on Wheels program, to make sure that everyone is aware of the services that we have available. Our advocacy is really important. It's one of the keystones of what we do, or the cornerstones of what we do at the agency. And we work really hard with our legislative group in Michigan, as well as the governor's office, to make sure that we get the support we need for senior programs, that we continue to fund them and provide all the services. When we look at the needs, there's never enough money. I'm not sure we could ever have enough money, because as the population is aging, so many people were not prepared, or so many people are living longer now and they have higher needs. So we're always advocating for more dollars. And there's needs, as I mentioned, as I said, the call yesterday that we had, because I saw some of the same faces, there's a real need for taking care of the workers, the caregivers out in the community that are going in, that are trying really hard to work in the conditions, but there's also a shortage. So we're working really hard to figure out solutions to that. And we appreciate all the support that we're getting in Lansing to make that happen as well. Our advocacy program for the Older Michiganians Day and our platform really talks about My Choice. My Choice is an amazing program that was started by an area agency on aging years ago. And it's for persons that meet nursing home level of care, but decide not to go into a nursing home. And through this program, we do screening, and then we do assessments and bring in the services they need to live independently at home with the different services. And in doing so, it really provides a lot of freedom and an alternative to what normally would have been a nursing home stay. This program is very, very important to us. It really goes along with our mission, vision, and values. And we really want to make sure that the state of Michigan keeps those programs within the area agencies on aging across the state and the other service or providers that we have. We want to really, just to be right out there with it, we want to make sure that managed care doesn't come into the state and start trying to take over some of the programs that traditionally have been provided by organizations such as the Area Agency on Aging. We do a great job, and we do it very, very well with a close relationship that we have with all the people we care for. Also, our non-Medicaid in-home services, our community living program. A lot of people that don't qualify for nursing home level of care but need additional supports to live in their home. We provide those services. Everyone is evaluated, and the services vary from once or twice a week. Some people need services 4 or 5 times a week or more. It's usually for a platform of hours, 2 to 4 hours at a time. And that's, again, to make sure that seniors are living in a clean environment, they have the proper nutrition that they need, and they're safe in their home. And we do that through this program. So we're really, really proud of that. As I mentioned, direct care workers, there's a shortage of direct care workers. And as we know that there are more seniors needing the services than there are workers out there. The $2 an hour increase that has been in place, we're hoping that continues. It helps. It's not the only answer, but it really helps and is a direction forward to help promote and bring people into that occupation and that career path. So we're hoping that funding can continue and really address the shortages that we're having. Supporting kinship caregivers, like grandparents raising grandchildren, was something that I really learned a lot about last year. It's really interesting the amount of pressure that grandparents have when all of a sudden they are taking on young children and they're responsible for the normal role of a parent and the cost that goes with it and the amount of time and energy. And as I'm aging, I don't know that I have the energy to do that, but I really, my hat's off to everybody that does. And it's really, really important that we continue to support them. These are seniors that are taking on a role that is very hard financially, emotionally, and physically. They're stepping up to the plate to make sure that they're caring for their families, and there's hardships that go with that. It's become a great focus of ours and something that we will continue to focus on and offer whatever support that we can. Bridging the digital divide is also important, and we noticed that with senior isolation. If more seniors had access to broadband, if they had access to the technology, the level of isolation would decrease. So we're looking at different programs that we have of how to bring broadband into their homes or into a senior apartments or nursing homes, as well as different devices where they can communicate with family. So it's also very, very important in that area as well. We can go on probably for a long time, but I know we're somewhat time limited. The programs that we offer Area Agency on Aging 1B and the different services. But I'm really thrilled to invite your questions today for our panelists of legislators that are here. We're excited to have you. So on behalf of our agency, thank you for joining us, and we look forward to a great hour. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Michael. While most of our program for Older Michiganians Day is focused on actions that the state legislature can take, we also wanted to provide an opportunity for any local elected officials that are on the call to say hello. I think we have Commissioner Brown. I'm going to give you the ability to speak now. If you see that option pop up on your screen. If there's any other local elected officials here, let us know in the chat. Commissioner Brown?
And you can actually turn your camera on too, please.
Oh, we see you. Oh, I can't hear you, but I can see you.
Let me see, make sure he should be unmuted. And he's under Don Brown, correct?
Mm-hmm.
Yep, okay, so yep, he's the right one.
Sorry about this,
That's okay.
Commissioner. All right, well, we'll see if we can get to you a little bit later in the program. All right, so I'll move into talking a little bit about our requests of the legislature in the 2021 Older Michiganians Day platform. So our platform is established with a group of area agencies and aging network partners across the state, looking at what are priority issues that we need to address right now to meet the needs of older adults in our state. So you heard Michael introduce these items. I'm going to talk a little bit more from the advocacy perspective about what proposals we're seeing right now in Lansing that we're tracking and what we hope are some next steps that the legislature will take. So first, about rebalancing Medicaid long-term supports and services. Michael was talking about our My Choice Medicaid waiver program that helps people who need nursing facility level of care to remain living in their homes and communities at great savings. I see a question about if the slides will be available, and yes, we'll have the recording of all this information, and the platform is also available on our website at aaa1b.org. Advocacy is right up at the top there. So this My Choice program is really valuable to older adults and people with disabilities in our state, allowing them to stay at home. The legislature and the governor have recommended increasing access to this program, allocating funds for 1,000 more slots or enrollments in this program across the state, which is a great sign of support for the My Choice program. But there's more we can do in this space. One of the ways we look at how our state is serving older adults and people with disabilities is looking at the amount of funding spent on home and community-based care. We know 90% of older adults want to stay in their homes as they age versus institutional-based care like nursing homes. Michigan lags behind most of the rest of the country in the amount of funding we're directing towards these home and community-based services. About 40% dedicated to home and community-based services in Michigan right now, below the national average, some states spending up to 80% of their long-term supports and service dollars in the home. We want to see that rebalance shift towards supporting the choice to stay in your home and community-based settings. We also support non-Medicaid in-home service programs. The Area Agency on Aging 1B provides leadership to the statewide Silver Key Coalition, which is committed to addressing unmet needs for these non-Medicaid in-home service programs. We know those that are just above the Medicaid income thresholds are often really hard pressed to afford care. They don't qualify for benefit programs, but they can't afford to pay out of pocket. But unfortunately, these programs have a large waiting list, over 6,100 people across the state waiting for these non-Medicaid in-home service programs. The coalition has requested a $6.375 million increase for the in-home service programs like personal care, homemaking, and $1 million for home delivered meals in the Aging Adult Services Agency budget. To give you an idea of the cost savings, if just 84 of the over 5,000 seniors waiting for the personal care type services receive services and stay out of a nursing home for just 1 year, that $6.375 million increase would pay for itself. Next slide, please. The direct care workforce, these programs we were just talking about, don't work if we don't have the worker that is skilled and compassionate in the home, providing that hands-on care to an older adult. These workers have been providing essential services in the network throughout the pandemic, and the legislature recognized the contributions this workforce has made by allocating what started out as a $2 per hour premium pay wage increase to support this workforce as they continue to put themselves at risk by going into seniors' homes and providing care. That increase was raised to $2.25 for the remainder of fiscal year 2021, where we are right now. But we're looking forward to fiscal year 2022, which begins on October 1st, and hoping to secure that wage support for these essential workers moving forward. We see some stats here about the hardships that direct care workers face in our state, and we think it's really important that we continue to support this workforce because the shortage was there before COVID and it's still in place now. So as much as we can support those wages will make a really big difference in access to in-home care services. Next slide. Bridging the digital divide for older adults. We want to make sure that seniors have the connections they need to connect to telehealth, to connect to friends and family. And the COVID pandemic has really highlighted how important these connections are. Telehealth is only going to increase in its importance moving forward. We've learned a lot about how that can work during the COVID pandemic, but too many older adults are left behind. It's really an issue of equity. You know, does your home have access to a broadband connection? Not everyone in our region does. Once you have that connection, can you afford to pay for internet access? Do you have access to a device, to a laptop or phone that's able to connect to the internet? And then do you have the training you need to be able to use those tools to your benefit? There's a number of things that we can do collectively all together to help older adults connect. And that's something that we put in this platform for legislative action to take a closer look at the impact of the digital divide. Michael also talked about how much we've learned at the Area Agency on Aging 1B about the needs of kinship caregivers. I know we have some strong kinship care advocates on the call today with us. Kinship caregivers, like grandparents raising grandchildren, are often thrust into a role that they weren't expecting, taking on the care of minor children at a time when they expected to be enjoying their retirement. And that comes with a number of challenges that they need some support in navigating. Things like guardianship or foster care at times. We support the establishment of a kinship care navigator program and authorizing that in state law to make sure that kinship caregivers are able to navigate this new role and get all the information they need to really be successful in this important role. We also support the creation of a kinship care advisory council. We know that there are issues with this population, but we don't have great data, and we don't have experts ready to tell us how to make children's services and senior services work together sometimes. So this advisory council would help to navigate all of the differing situations that kinship caregivers face and create some recommendations for action to improve services and supports for this population. There were bills introduced in the last legislative session that all of our panelists today supported, but unfortunately didn't become law. And we're hoping that those will be taken up again in this legislative session. All right, so with that kind of review of the 5 primary issues of the Older Michiganians Day platform, I believe we have Commissioner Brown, our local elected official, possibly ready to introduce himself before we move into our panel discussion. Are we ready to give that a try again?
Let me see. Commissioner, please turn on your camera. I'm going to ask you to unmute.
Hi, Katie, it's Kathleen, and Commissioner Brown messaged me, and unfortunately he did have to leave, it looks like, so.
All right, sorry that didn't work out, but with that we'll move into our panel discussion. So our panelists will introduce you, and then you should be seeing the panelists pop up and they'll be able to unmute themselves here. So we have Senator Irwin serving the 18th Senate District, which includes Washtenaw County. He's also a member of the MDHHS, or Michigan Department of Health and Human Services Appropriations Subcommittee. Thank you for joining us, Senator. We have, great. I'm trying to keep track of where everyone is on my screen right now.
Please turn your cameras on so I could go ahead and add you to the panel if you don't have your camera on.
Great. I see Representative Bollin. She represents the 42nd House District, including Livingston County. She's on the House MDHHS Appropriations Subcommittee, jurisdiction over senior services budgets. Thank you for joining us.
Good to be here. Thank you.
We have Representative Carter. She serves the 29th House District in Oakland County. Hi, Representative Carter.
Hello, thank you for inviting me.
Thanks so much for being here. And then we have Representative Wozniak serving the 36th House District in Macomb County. Both Representative Carter and Representative Wozniak serve on the House Family, Children, and Seniors Committee and review a lot of legislation related to seniors. Hello. Okay, great. I think we have all of our panelists pinned to the top here, so we should be able to see everyone. Thanks for bearing with us as we learn how to do all of this virtually. So we were able to get some questions from people as they were registering. So I'll include those as we talk about these core platform issues today. Grab the right paper. All right. So we want to start off with talking about the direct care workforce. We know that direct care workers make our in-home service programs possible, and we're looking to secure that wage increase for fiscal year 2022. Let me start with you, Senator Irwin. Can you give us an update on what's happening in Lansing to support direct care workers moving forward?
Yeah, happy to. As you may know, this is an issue that's near and dear to my heart because the direct care worker crisis was well underway before I got elected to the state Senate. And this is something that we were focusing on in 2019 before the pandemic hit. And thankfully, because of the influx of CARES dollars, the legislature did appropriate and the governor did agree with a $2 wage increase for direct care workers, which has been very helpful. But in my view, it's important that that continue because it really was, I think, impossible before the pandemic, and it's going to become even more impossible to find quality, consistent caregivers at the rate that the state is paying. And so I'm hopeful that we can continue that wage increase as you asked, and to be a little more direct, just this week in the Senate Appropriations Committee, the Senate did approve a continuation of that wage increase for $2.35, for the fiscal year 21-22 budget. So I think that that is a really positive indication that my conservative colleagues in the Senate are very much in agreement that the care of our seniors and our disabled residents who depend on these direct care workers is absolutely essential. And the workers who provide that service are important, and we need to make sure that they're available and that this wage increase is absolutely essential to do that. So this has really been one of the areas that when I'm back in my community, I like to point out to folks that no matter what you're hearing in the media, there are some issues that folks are coming together on in Lansing in a bipartisan way to say, we need to step up for our seniors and we need to step up for the people who are doing the intimate, difficult work to serve them. I just want to add that I do think that continuing this wage increase really doesn't get us where we need to go, especially with the increasing cost of living. We really need to create a system where these workers have a path to a living wage and a thriving wage, and that they can stay in the profession if they're good at it. And then we also need to think about investing in and making the training more accessible for these workers. Because I think that as we talk about investing more and making sure that this service works, we also need to make sure that the service is at a high quality.
Thank you, Senator. I know we had a couple of questions on this same topic from individuals registering, with Marie asking, sounds like probably an employer of direct care workers, that there's major concerns with the workforce shortage and being able to retain direct care workers too. Representative Bollin, would you want to jump in on the conversation? That question. You can't unmute. All right. We'll work it out. Here we go. Okay.
Okay, now I can. So the concern about attracting new workers is been quite a concern, and so we're looking at different ways kind of to create a path where you start out entry level and then there's opportunities for advancement, and hopefully that will serve as an incentive for people to stay in the field, but also reward them for staying in as they get more skilled and can earn a higher wage as well. And trying to be creative in that sense, and what are those without being burdensome. So it's not to create more licensing requirements, but to have some incentives, some sort of climbing, maybe increased skill set that would get them there. So not burdensome for the employee or the employer.
Yeah, we had a question from Ann about the importance of incentives to attract people to this workforce. So Representative Carter and Representative Wozniak, you have anything else to add on direct care workers?
I'll take a shot at that. I was out last night, my husband and I, and we stopped at a couple of restaurants, and we saw firsthand the impact of shortage of workers. And the few people who were there were just really overburdened. And if we don't incentivize this special group of people who are out there who are obviously making below the livable wage, then we're going to see the direct care industry collapse. I'm very, very concerned with it. If you live in a community like mine, where grandparents are raising grandchildren, the majority of grandparents are raising their grandchildren, then you need all the help that you can get. So I'm very, very concerned and working with people like Lisa Grotsky and, give her a shout. I see the impact firsthand, and I know the legislature really needs to look at it. I'll pass it over to my good colleague here, Doug.
Thank you, Rep. Carter. Rep. Carter and I have worked on a few of these issues trying to promote them, and normally we hit a stone wall. But we keep trying, and we're bipartisan. And actually, it's really nice to work on some of these things because they do become bipartisan. But philosophically, if you look at our entire Medicaid system in our state overall and utilizing the area agency, we reward people for doing bad things in their life, like smoking and drinking and spending all their money. And then we give them Medicaid and Medicare. But the person that saved their money, went to church every Sunday, like Rep. Carter, they get penalized. They get penalized. And our whole system is upside down, and it starts with the care workers. The care workers, if you're not rewarding them, they're going to leave the system. And when we begin looking at that caregiving system, it's fragile to begin with. How many people can you find for $11 or that are going to wipe your butt, quite literally? I couldn't do it. And I really applaud the people that do get involved. So enough of my soapbox.
Well, if you consider the fact that probably all of our direct care workers are essential workers, they're frontliners, okay? That we need to really look at that industry closely and see what we can do to bridge that gap.
Mm-hmm.
I can't speak for everybody on this call, but I can speak for me. The next zero I see will be 70. And I'm hoping that I have someone out there that could take care of me.
You're a youngster.
If I could just jump in one more time on this direct care worker issue, I would say, just to add on to what my colleagues have said, that if we really are eager to get folks into this workforce, one of the things that we have to get serious about is making sure that we're providing quality, affordable childcare to these workers. When you look at this workforce, it is overwhelmingly women. And we are not doing a good enough job of making sure that these folks can actually go out and do this work and then cover their childcare costs. If you're making less than your childcare costs, you can't go back to work. That's just math. And so, that's another thing that I think we need to be stepping up to the plate to at the state legislative level to make sure that folks are able to get back to work.
Yeah, even with the earned income tax credits that we give, people with families that have children, they're still under the poverty line, way under.
We know that these workers provide anything but unskilled care. Sometimes that's the way it's classified, but we know we need really high quality people. And when all the rest of us went home last year to, social distance and protect our older adults who were really impacted by this COVID pandemic, we needed those workers to keep going.
Indeed. So along that, Senator Irwin mentioned this about the budget, and we did put a placeholder in there. There is disagreement at this point about the increase. And I will tell you from the House perspective where it is, we don't feel that government should be dictating wages. But I think that we'll come to some conclusion. But I think also we need to try to change the trajectory that these jobs are very valuable. They shouldn't be seen as second-class jobs, entry level. These are very important jobs, in my opinion. These are the people that are taking care of our loved ones, especially, our elderly. And as one who started out as a rec therapist with a specialty in geriatrics, the seniors have kind of a special place on my heart. And I think we need to just show more value in these jobs. I don't think society always treats them as if they are valued jobs.
thank you all for sharing your perspectives and insights about what we need to do moving forward to make sure that we have the workforce we need to provide the programs that seniors need. COVID really showed us all how important it is to be able to stay safe at home. We've known for a long time that seniors prefer to stay at home as long as they can before entering a higher level of care. Has the pandemic changed any of your perspectives on home and community-based care, and what conversations are happening about increasing access to care at home through different programs offered here in the state?
Well, I see you have Mr. McGuire on here too. And hi, Jim. Is one of your great guys in your system. So, but with regard to in-home care, even you guys put it in your notes that people are better off when they stay home and they stay healthier. Hey, Jim. And I know for everything to work, we've just got to be cognizant of controlling those costs, keeping people at home if we can. And I know that works. I've been in elder law for a long time, and it does work, but we have to come up with new ideas going forward. With COVID, is it going to be like the flu next year and a nothing item? Could be, don't know.
Well, I've seen a huge impact with COVID on my community, the community of Pontiac, okay? And what happened with our seniors is that they locked themselves in, especially at the beginning of the pandemic when it was just, everything was pointed to death of our seniors if they had visitors or whatever. And now I see that the shots are available and the rates are, the incidence of COVID is going down, or either they're more manageable in the hospital. We have an opportunity to look and see if something critical of this nature occurs again, can we put systems in place to ensure that our seniors have what they need? Okay, a lot of them will just stay in Pontiac. A lot of them live in assisted living or either high-rise apartments. And we were concerned with these units actually becoming super spreaders because everybody was locked in and they were locked in apartment buildings. So we just need to make sure that our seniors have access to food, access to water, access to PPE, all the things that we take for granted may be taken care of. And as far as having living in assisted living versus living at home or being with somebody, a caregiver, we found that the majority of people in my district prefer to be with someone they know, a caregiver, which once again shows the value of ensuring that we make sure that our caregivers are taken care of.
Yeah, thanks. We know so much care. The majority of care is really provided by family caregivers in the state. So making sure we're thinking of them through this as well. And, in-home service programs like the My Choice Medicaid waiver have continued to serve people throughout this time. And we're hoping to see those programs grow in the future to continue meeting the needs of the aging population. Because we're going to have more and more seniors every day.
I'm hoping to see those programs grow as well, and you're seeing some movement in the budget right now. I think certainly are seeing it on my side of the dome, and so ever since I was a House member, I've been wondering why is it that we're having such a hard time coming together as a legislature on this idea that seniors are happier, healthier, and are served more efficiently ultimately from a financial perspective by staying at home. And so folks who want to choose to stay there and receive services there should have that available to them. It makes all the sense in the world to me. And so hopefully that's something that we'll continue to see increase. And to the point that I believe you were making earlier, let's hope that Michigan can start to get up to at least the Great Lakes average in terms of the availability of community-based services for people who choose to receive a less expensive, more successful service.
I think that's the key, Senator Irwin. You look at how we compare with other states, it's embarrassing to think that we're not even spending half the dollars on home and community-based care when most other states are spending more than half on the dollars. There are waiting lists for in-home services in Michigan. There are no waiting lists to get into Medicaid nursing homes in the state of Michigan. That's an imbalance that we need to make progress toward turning around. Thank you.
Yeah, I strongly agree. But for me, the pandemic didn't really change that opinion. That's been my opinion since before the pandemic. And I do think the pandemic cuts both ways, in some of the ways that Representative Carter was mentioning, towards the concerns that were raised in these congregate care settings when you have an airborne respiratory virus. But, I don't want to get caught up sort of fighting the last war. I've always thought that these, options for community-based service are, like I said, better, more successful. People want them and they cost less.
Should say I unmuted Jim. Jim McGuire is our Director of Research, Policy Development, and Advocacy at the Area Agency on Aging. So for those of you who heard a new voice, that was Jim. I did want to talk more about kinship caregivers. I see a question coming in from Facebook, and a couple of questions came in before. We have some really great kinship caregivers that are excellent advocates for themselves and the children in their care that I know are here today. So you all supported the authorization of the Kinship Care Navigator program, which is currently running through a grant with MSU, but making that permanent in state law so that can continue in the future to provide support to kinship caregivers. And then also the creation of a Kinship Care Advisory Council. I'll start with you, Representative Carter. Have you heard anything about those bills coming up again in your committee this year? We're hoping to see those cross the finish line.
I'm going to pass this over to my good colleague, and I think you're the vice chair of the Family, Children, and Seniors Committee, which I also sit on, but he may have the latest and greatest. Doug, you want to take a shot at this one?
Yeah, sure. There's been rumors that we're going to bring it back up. I was one of the co-sponsors last term, and I'm hoping it comes back. To me, it was a no-brainer, but it didn't make it through all the legislative steps. So we'll try again. We never give up. I know Rep Carter never gives up.
Yeah, I like that monarch butterfly. I'm not giving up.
Geez.
Oh, Doug. Oh, come on now, Ann. That's a cute little bug. Anyway.
Yeah. Is that motto behind it there? Float like a butterfly, sting like a bee.
Here you go. Hey.
So the kinship language has actually been included in the budget bill.
Yeah.
In the House budget bill.
Mm-hmm.
So if that means that for people out there, it's in the boilerplate that it would be funded 1 year, and that gives us kind of the intro to it, then to actually put it in statute by, putting into law another bill, because boilerplate language is just 1 year.
Yeah, the important part of that bill is the Navigator program, having some place people can go to get direction. And without that program, they'll be out there in the woods looking for some place to land.
Yeah,
Go ahead.
Sorry, some of the questions we've gotten from kinship caregivers are about financial assistance for food and clothing for grandchildren. And what do you do in senior housing with a minor grandchild? You're living in a senior housing building that's supposed to be seniors only, and then you take on this new responsibility. I'm not sure if any of you can shed light on those questions right now, but that's what we're all hoping to do with this kind of Navigator program, is give kinship caregivers a place to turn for those resources.
I would just like to comment on, and I think I saw Lisa here in the room. She invited me to a kinship caregiver meeting at Walton Park Manor here in Pontiac, where I have to admit I learned quite a bit. I learned that the grandparents are oftentimes funding their grandchildren, taking care of them, and this is in additional to their own financial need. So it's an opportunity for us in the legislature to kind of correct some of that, especially if the grandparent becomes the primary caregiver. You know, I'm not sure if that gap has been closed yet. And Doug, you may be able to share more light on this than me, but that is something that we identified, Lisa, if you want to chime in, as a critical need in areas like Pontiac.
Yeah, thank you, Representative, for your thoughts on kinship caregivers. I know Lisa is here for sure, so saw her in the chat.
There
They
you
just turned on her camera. Hi, Lisa.
Sure. Hi, everyone, and thank you for the shout out, Representative Carter. The needs for kinship caregivers in the 3 counties that OLSA services, Macomb, Oakland, and Livingston, is great. And unfortunately, with the COVID pandemic, things got a little bit more serious because, like you mentioned, a lot of them sheltered in place and quarantined, didn't let anyone in or out. So it left them unable to fill up their pantry and stock their home with food. A lot of these grandparents have to make a decision whether to feed their grandchildren or pay their car insurance or renew their tabs. So they don't often have the transportation to move about. Housing is also a serious issue. Sometimes older adults have downsized when the kinship caregiving event occurs. And unfortunately, senior housing doesn't allow for those minor children to live in those types of circumstances. So as Katie Wendell mentioned earlier, just melding these 2 worlds so it isn't so difficult for these caregivers in the future. But the Navigator program in the state of Michigan is so needed. We're one of the few states in the country, from my understanding, that does not have a place like a toll-free phone number for individuals to go to. So this would make a big impact, since kin or relative caregivers are identified as being the first in line to accept children in a crisis situation. So I appreciate you allowing me to chime in here this afternoon.
Thanks, Lisa. Appreciate your perspective and sharing what the kinship caregivers you work with every day are experiencing. So another issue that is new on the Older Michiganian Save platform this year is bridging the digital divide. I know some of you experience this in your districts in different ways, whether it's homes that aren't connected to the broadband network in more rural areas, or if it's really the affordability and true access for older adults that might not have really needed to be connected before, or they didn't see the urgency, and now they're starting to look for those digital connections. Would love to hear your thoughts on this ongoing issue. Many of you were working on it before the pandemic, of course, but for older adults, the concern is heightened now.
Yeah, maybe Senator Irwin can chime in also, but we had a bill up to provide 100% broadband service to the whole state. And I'm not pointing fingers here, but it got vetoed out as being too slow. So now we've got a faster bill out with 100, I think it's 100 megabytes down and 25 up or something. Jeff, do you know anything about the bill? The governor vetoed the first one, and now we're trying to twice. Sorry, Ed. Yeah. So we're trying to get something going with getting that started. I think we have the funding for it.
We definitely have the funding for it. And blanketing services, this is something that I've been working on in Livingston County for over 10 years, even before I came to the legislature. And it is extremely important. More and more people are relying on it. Just look, I introduced a bill that passed the House and is over in the Senate for telehealth services. And we need to make sure that these, in the line of healthcare, we have accessible, affordable, quality healthcare. And just as it relates to that, to allow people to, get healthcare services. So this is a priority, I think, for many of us in both chambers and in both caucuses. And we do have money, a lot of COVID money that really could make a big difference in our state. So anything that you can do to help us, to encourage that, to get support of that would be very, very much appreciated.
Yeah, the area up in here is so underserved. Veterans and elderly people move up there because it's cheap to live. They're almost off the grid, but you know, they would, if we can keep the younger GME students up there with access to broadband, we'll have a better shot. You know, the medical people, the pharmacists, instead of them moving out of state or downstate, we can keep them up there.
Yeah, so I'm not really sure exactly what bill the representative is referencing and can't speak for the governor, but there certainly are resources available from the federal government to address some of these needs. And I know that access is a big problem in many parts of our state. And in my part of the state, the biggest issue that affects many people, thousands and thousands of people and seniors in my district is just the cost of plugging in. They may have a line that goes down their street, but the cost of plugging is quite great, particularly when you're maybe an older senior who worked and earned a good living and played by all the rules, and now you're retiring on an income that was frozen in time 20 years ago. And that becomes a big problem as inflation becomes a bigger problem in general. So these things are important, but one of the things that I would point to as a solution that I'd like to have be part of the conversation is that back in 2006, there was a law signed by Governor Granholm that says that broadband telecom service is not a utility and that public entities may not own these things. And that really created a big problem because now you have monopolistic players in the corporate side who have no real reason to invest in some communities, and so they choose not to. And our public providers who might be able to step in and provide that service are often restricted from doing so. And I think that if a township or a county or a city can provide that service to their residents at a cheaper price than these huge multi-billion-dollar corporations can do it, then that says something about how these corporations are treating our citizens. And we need to provide that option to keep these providers honest in terms of their pricing schemes.
Yeah, I'm seeing a question in the chat and a bit of a different topic. Chaka McDonald, who I believe serves veterans in Oakland County, asked if there are any special initiatives going on to target older veterans. The majority of state veterans are age 55 and up, and many are not connected to the VA or additional programs. So wanted to share that question from Chaka.
So I'm not aware of any specific programs that are targeting, but I don't sit on the veterans budget and haven't looked that closely at it. But I do know that every county has the ability to have a veterans village. And so in Livingston County, our veterans services reaches out to veterans of all ages. And kind of the focus right, in recent years is we have a need for housing for veterans. And then also transportation are more accessible here in the county versus traveling down to Ann Arbor for veteran services. So they are very active group. And certainly with COVID, everything changes how people access, I'm sure the needs are much greater than we even realize because we're not seeing people, we're not touching people, right? We don't have that contact. So it is something that definitely I will be looking out for things, to make sure that our seniors are. I think they maybe fall in these two pots and just maybe trying to coordinate a little better. I'll explore some ways that we might be able to do that. So thank you for that suggestion.
I'd like to chime in on this too. In Oakland County, I'm sure at Oakland County, County Executive Coulter has a program out there that facilitates and assists our veterans. But when I started first term, I developed my own in-district service for veterans because there were far too many of our veterans on the corners that were homeless and begging for food. And I personally feel that's an atrocity. If they can go serve our country, they don't need to stand on the corner begging for food. So what I did was I reached out to a commander that's here in Pontiac, a 90-year-old veteran, in fact. And we are working every single day to provide food, services, housing, everything we can for our entire community, but specifically with our veterans. And to put in one of those plugs, thank you very much. Memorial Day, we are going to be feeding our veterans in District 29 free of charge to show our appreciation for them fighting and serving our country. So if you would like more information, I put all my information right there in the chat.
Thank you so much, Representative. Got a message from Nicole Urban, who provides services in Macomb County, commenting on our second platform point, non-Medicaid in-home services. Here in Macomb County, we see a lot of need for personal care and housekeeping services that are more affordable for those who are above the Medicaid income threshold but can't afford the market rate for in-home care, struggle to fill that gap. I think we see that throughout our service area, and thank you for bringing that up, Nicole. Any thoughts on how we can bridge that gap for those just above that Medicaid threshold?
Well, I think that some way we should try to be look at some more sliding fee schedules, right? So, maybe it's not free, but maybe it's, just as your income, certain thresholds that it can be offered in that way might be an option.
Yeah, programs offered through the Aging Adult Services Agency that are really the focus area for the Silver Key Coalition's requested, increase support. They offer the opportunity for everyone receiving the service to contribute to the cost of the care they get, and seniors do contribute to that cost, and it makes up a significant portion of the program budget. So that's one way that we do that in the network. We're coming up close to 3 o'clock. I wanted to provide one opportunity for all of you just to share any other important senior focused priorities that we should know about before we close out today's event. So if there's anything else you're working on that we didn't get a chance to mention yet today.
Sure.
Thanks, Representative Wozniak.
I think we might have left out about 1,050 different topics we could be talking about. With seniors, it gets complex, but one item really short on an unintended consequence coming up is the no-fault insurance changes. We already know that we haven't got a proper schedule for people that need continuing care. They're going to fall off. The recommendation is for them to go into Medicaid, which would add about $72 million worth of costs in the coming year. And so this could be a problem with funding as we come out, Katie, under all the Medicaid dollars that we're going to have. We're going to have $72 million less probably if we don't do anything to try and fix that. So I think that's important. And on a side note, the Chippewa Valley, or excuse me, Chesterfield Veterans Home is opening up starting this month. And that's a big deal.
Thank you, Representative.
I'm done.
Representative Carter.
Yes, thank you very much for that great lead-in, Doug, for the Minority Vice Chair of the Insurance Committee. Yes, we too are looking at the disparities of what could possibly happen July 1st. And we're looking for bipartisan collaboration on coming up with a solution to deal with that gap. Okay, we'll keep you posted on that. And also just the mere fact that this is May is the month of Memorial Day. And I'm just asking everyone, if you have a cemetery in your area, in your neighborhoods, just go out there and look for our veterans who are out there. And if the tombstones look a little dusty or something, maybe just brush it off, clean it off, and stick a flag in there. That would mean a lot. Thank you.
Thank you, Representative.
I would just point out that we're still working on the very important issue of elder abuse, whether that's, financial abuse or scammers through the phones, that, I think there are some things that we could probably come together on that would help with those problems. And, really following the recommendations of the AG's task force around some of the ways that we could improve our rules around conservators and guardianships, just to make sure that, the rights of our seniors and the agency of our seniors is respected as much as we can.
Yeah, thanks for that, Senator, because right now, as a probate attorney for the last 20 years, our probate system is still a mess. That's all I gotta say.
And
And it's not your
I'm
fault.
working.
You're not your fault, Senator. Not your fault.
I'm working on some end of life patient rights types bills, but also making sure that, one thing we saw COVID, we need to make sure that our elderly people are not isolated.
Yes.
And access, even during a pandemic, is extremely important. People need to touch and feel one another, hug and love their loved ones. It's extremely important. Working on that. And then some kind of an accelerated pathway to licensing. During COVID, there were some special considerations to our CRNAs and the licensing. So trying to continue to work on some of that occupational licensing so that, bureaucracy doesn't get in the way.
Katie, real quick, are you guys looking at using the post forms for end of life decision making with the doctors?
I'm sorry, Doug.
The post.
Oh, you're talking to Katie. I'm sorry.
Oh, I'm sorry. Yeah, physician's order for sustainable treatment or satisfactory treatment, and it's a document that we've been developing in the bar for about 10 years, and we finally brought it out, and it's something you guys could use a lot to clarify end of life decision making.
Yeah, thank you for that recommendation. I know that we include some of those elements in our care plans for our in-home service programs. I'm not sure about exactly what forms we use, but I'll pass on that suggestion. And it is 3:00 now, so we want to be respectful of all of your time. And thank you so very much for joining our panel today and sharing your insights with all of our senior advocates. Again, we wish we would have been able to be there in person for Older Michiganians Day, hopefully next year. And for being with us as we navigate this virtual format. It's a really great conversation. Really appreciate it.
Great. Thanks for
you.
having us. Yep.
Thank you so much.
Thank
See you,
you.
Jim.
Thank you all so very much.
Right.
We do have a few advocacy resources for our grassroots advocates that we're listening in today that we wanted to share with you. On the Area Agency on Aging 1B website, we have Contact Your Legislator guides. We produce a monthly advocacy newsletter called The Advocate. You can email me at advocacy@aaa1b.com to get signed up for that if you want to stay in the loop on these types of issues we were talking about today. We also create a legislative platform that includes all the issues we talked about today and more that we focus on for our legislative session. And then I think Char from our communication staff was just going to make sure people were connected to any Area Agency on Aging 1B resources before we close out today. So thank you all so much for joining us for this event. Oh, can't hear you yet.
It's funny when you have to unmute people, but forget to unmute yourself. Thank you so much to all of our legislators and everyone who joined us. Just really quickly, in case you didn't know, this is the Area Agency on Aging 1B. So we wanted to make sure that if anyone there out there listening, anyone watching needs any services for older adults 60 and over, if you're a family caregiver caring for someone, if you're an adult with a disability, we are here to help. So we are a nonprofit dedicated to helping older adults remain in home independently. You can give us a call to be connected with resources like in-home care, Meals on Wheels, transportation options, health and wellness, and more. We do cover 6 counties in Southeast Michigan, including Livingston, Macomb, Monroe, Oakland, St. Clair, and Washtenaw counties. But if you're listening or watching from outside of those areas, you can call us. We can connect you with your local agency. We're a national network. We have 16 agencies in the state of Michigan, but please give us a call at 800-852-7795 or go to our website at aaa1b.org to be connected with all of our resources. And also make sure you check out the chat. And if you're on Facebook, make sure you check out the comment sections and contact your local legislators. We let you know how. We have them all listed for you. All of the information that was discussed today is also listed so you know what to advocate for. And we just say thank you on behalf of the Area Agency on Aging 1B. And thank you, Katie, for this awesome event. You did a great job. This was awesome.
Thank you. And thank you everyone for joining us. We really appreciate you all coming out and sharing your questions. And again, a huge thank you for all of our legislators that took the time to join us today. Really enjoyed speaking with all of you. So look forward to working with you more in the future.
And this will be emailed out. If you pre-registered, you'll get this in an email, this whole recording with some other information to go along with it. Thank you, everybody.
Thank you. Have a good afternoon and a good weekend.
Have a good weekend.